take it from there as you've run away for us.
I'll be back in 5 minutes, I promise.
And that is, how do you react to the things in the show which I think all of us have seen, which could be considered from a religious background, or at least from a moral authority or something like that? Do you think the show does a good job of that, and then does it do a good job sometimes and a bad job sometimes?
Well, to me, like morality, these are constructs that have been given throughout the generations. Personally, I think religion has taken hold of them and sometimes claims them, but I'm an atheist. I consider myself a moral person. But I think, it's a little ambiguous when it comes to Doctor Who, but I think it does a really good job to actually not lean towards religion. I think people tend to put that in their mind. They're like, because, based on their beliefs, I'm like, personally, the Earth is far too old. The universe is far too old. There was no creator, in my opinion. But I think, especially if you look at all these stories, Doctor Who went back to the beginning of time, where the arachnid, they formed planet Earth. To me, it's like, I don't think that aligns with the mission of faith. And I don't think you need faith in Doctor Who. But, honestly, maybe the creators or the writers put that in there, so maybe the people of faith can take it with them, but people of non-faith, atheistic, or, people consider themselves agnostic, which is an adjective. I don't think it's there directly for people of faith, but if you want to take it as a construct, it's there, but it's not a definitive.
And taking off on that and kind of tying that in together with what Chip had said at the beginning, I'd like to know kind of where we are as a group in the room as far as our own backgrounds and stuff like that. So anyone who is interested in sharing, if you have kind of a different faith religion or anything like that, I'd love to make sure that your voice is heard. So you don't have to do it now, but if you are interested in kind of adding in your voice, especially if your voice is from an Eastern religion, or even I think for the things that we have here, there are various Judeo-Christian type of places to go as well. But definitely I want to make sure that that's open to everyone here, because I want to hear the aspect of how things relate at various different places. And so I'm wondering, Chip, since you've had 2 years to ruminate on this, and actually I was on that panel as well, and I've felt the same type of thing. I'm wondering, have you discovered anything about that nature, about kind of different voices and things that may be interesting about how the show deals with religion that you didn't know then and you'd like to share now that kind of ties in? Yeah.
I actually almost feel like I know less than I did 2 years ago. My recollection is that the last 2 series of Doctor Who have, and somebody please feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't recall the last 2 series particularly delving into sort of metaphysics or toying with religious tropes. But in a lot of different areas of human experience, and even getting past religion, I've been paying a lot of attention in the last couple of years to how people feel when they feel marginalized or erased. And one of the things that I find so complicated about Doctor Who, in the fact that it can make such definitive statements about history, is that the show has a great power to erase the perspectives of people who are watching it. And I think for the most part in the last couple of years, the show has done I guess you'd say a pretty good job of not exactly taking those sort of controversial steps. Many episodes of Russell T Davies's Doctor Who take some fairly strong stances against religious belief. Not quite to the extent of Captain Picard being shocked at the proto-Vulcans on this other planet are being taught religion, are developing a religion. Oh my God. Wait, that's a contradiction right there. And it's been a while since the episode where they're in the hotel and the creature that is haunting them is is preying on people with faith, and they have to give up their faith to survive. It's been a while since the show's tackled it that way. So yeah, I'm feeling a little dumber than I was then.
I feel very similar, sir.
Well, they only lightly, like they put the tip of their pinky toe in the water when they go. Everybody dies and goes to the nether sphere, and of course who's Missy? God. Now, she really God? Well, she created the nether sphere, and she's been taking people into the afterlife. And then later on, as they try to find, what's her name, boyfriend, I forget now, I can't remember his name, but anyway, the first thing the doctor says, we'll go to hell. Now, he doesn't mean like in the mean sense, like Judeo-Christian, because hell was a term for anybody who died, in a sense, where you go to hell, because that's where the underworld was. So he's like, I've never been to the underworld, I've always wanted to take a look around. And that's all they do with it. They just pinky toe it and then they take their foot out.
So it's interesting because, yes, I wrote down as Chip was speaking about Death in Heaven and basically that side of Series 8, because I had kind of a very I didn't like that storyline for a bunch of different reasons, but I believe that kind of the things that you're alluding to were part of it. And I will frame my question for Susan, because I think that I think part of the idea here is to kind of take it from the other perspective, and I'd like to know, because I felt at the moment that was happening like it was in this sense kind of negating the idea of heaven and hell that existed in the Judeo-Christian thing, which I don't even personally believe in, but I didn't like the way the series framed it, and so I was wondering what you thought about that, and also generally about this idea.
Well, it was, when you willingly suspend your disbelief, you really take the ideas of science fiction can be anything, and it can come at you from any direction. So literally taking people from their death and then stealing their reality, their soul, their you said Vulcans, the Katra, all the stealing their personalities and putting them in the nether sphere does not negate heaven and hell. It doesn't negate Sheol. It doesn't negate the constructs of early religion. It just takes it to a different place. The fight against the evil demons has always been a part of Doctor Who. I'm actually more a classic Who fan. I like the Pertwee era because of the Brigadier, because he's an honorable soldier, and I like that Pertwee in the song "I Am the Doctor" says, coming against demonic and the demons, and then he actually went and fought Azael in the demons, and he was, he went to bat against the gods of Atlantis, and I mean it wasn't like classic Who came at the matters of faith like going, no, different, separate. It just is like part of the whole general mishmash, and that kind of thing kept on going or has been, different of the creators have come at it from a different perspective, of course, because different creator. Anyway, so didn't think it was too bad. I liked it.
So I have one question from out here, and then I have kind of a follow-up that I'd like to get to, and then I want to ask you a question as well. Yes?
Just to go back to the nether sphere for a moment. I'm all for suspension of disbelief. I feel like we get through most entertainment we need to incorporate that. But if the question is whether or not God can exist in Doctor Who, doesn't the very existence of the nether sphere mean that at the very least the Time Lord is more powerful than God? Because would God not have stepped in and said, no, you're not taking the souls of my people and putting them in this like
Maybe he did
computer?
by bringing the Doctor into it. Maybe he did by bringing the Doctor into it, the correction.
Oh.
We don't know.
This has raised a bunch of commentary. In the center here first.
Well, there's always the possibility that instead of taking the actual souls of the people, they basically took like a photograph of the mind and took like a sort of shadow soul into the Manosphere, so that when people died, they would go to heaven or hell or whatever. But this sort of shadow, not quite human, would be going to this other way. And in a lot of ways, that almost makes more sense than the idea of taking an actual soul, because it's like, what is the soul and how do you follow it, right?
But for what purpose? Because Missy mentioned in that episode that it took her real time to do it. If she could just sort of create snapshots of random people, then why does it matter that they're actually?
Well, she turned them into Cybermen. I mean, it wasn't like she was really. She wanted fully fleshed out human beings. She wanted cyber people.
Cyber
Your comment?
It's a similar. It makes it the same idea. Is that I don't feel like those two stories negate each other. Like what you said. If the actual soul goes on to the actual afterlife, and this is a poor man's copy, which is good enough for a Cyberman. I don't see those two things negating each other. It does raise some interesting questions though around what is a soul. I think it raises more interesting questions around that to me.
Right, which is, and Doctor Who is a show that is not made by professors of theology. So I don't say that wanting to disconnect any of the conversation that we're having. But the conversation is what we're bringing to the show, as opposed to what the show is trying to do. The show's going to play fast and loose of whether a soul is a soul or not.
I think that's definitely the case, although I would say that sometimes I think the show's trying to say some things that it may not have intended to say. One comment here, and then we're going to move off of this subject.
Okay. For me?
Yes.
So for me, as a Christian, actually a fellow Presbyterian elder, I try to kind of disengage a little bit more from the, looking for what does this mean for my faith, and really step back and look at it more as a morality play. This is a story about good and evil. It's a story that is a made-up story that I don't have to put my religion into in order to gain something from it. And so, for me, I think of like the Narnia stories by C.S. Lewis were a Christian allegory that was very clearly trying to tell a story, but there was also no direct heaven and hell, and there's a lot we can take from stories that feed into our understanding of the world and our faith, that don't have to necessarily be directly intended by the people who are creating it. So that's another way to look at it.
That's a really good point. I want to say one thing in response, and then I'll shut up for a while because I've been monopolizing.